Today I'm going to go through how I painted this piece. Love painting it. Hope you enjoy it too. Here's the video. So here we are. I'm going to talk at parts through this, and other parts I'll just let the process do its thing. So here I am at my easel palette on the left hand side, and the painting set up. I've already done, as you can see, part of it already. So I've got what I tend to do, I use just a regular graphite pencil to mock up or lay out where in this instance the figure is going to be, and indeed some of the street, and I did put in a few lines of where this character is in the background, or there's going to be a few people. I want a few people in the background of this, and maybe an idea of what the street is all about. But generally I just wanted to put in where the figure's going to be and everything going from there. So just getting it right by pencil drawing. And then over the top I did a very basic, again in oil, all of this is in oils, a wash of some colour in the background to get this wet look street again in the background. And then for the lady's red dress, the red colour, I found this really tricky to get right. I wanted it quite vibrant, but I didn't want it to be too oversaturated in the final piece. But I wanted it to be red. I didn't want it to be really too orange, of which is kind of one of those traps to fall into. So I used a whole bunch of different colours, and also was quite mindful that I wanted it to be a good strong opaque colour. So a lot of cadmium red. I did warm it up a little bit with some Orient Lake, and what else did I use? Quinacridone, kind of alizarin crimson. Yeah, and just watching a few different bits, and then doing the flesh colours. Again, the base of like the dark base being kind of a burnt umber. And then a few similar kind of pigments that I use in the dress as well. So a crimson lake, white as well, and a rose madder lake as well to get the skin tones. Of this part here, this one section I wanted to run at kind of actual speed of how I would go about doing things like the eyelashes, eyebrows, or any kind of detail really. So if you're new to oil painting, one thing I've found over the years is not to be too scared about really going in there with some high contrast dark brush strokes, or something that you kind of think like this on its first, the first time I give it a go, it looks kind of horrific, but quite quickly. So I've got, for this, a lot of the time, for a lot of this I just used some just acrylic kind of brushes, so not actual bristle at all, they're synthetic brushes, and I find them a lot of the time they work really well to blend out the colours. So the pigment, the medium I use is Liquid Original, works really well for the majority of the work I do. And every now and again I'll probably use some some kind of maybe a slow drying medium, again from Winsor Newton, or maybe Liquid Fine Detail. So the paint underneath this is still wet, so I'm able to just blend in with what I'm going over the top. And quite quickly, from something that looks quite harsh, quite stark, the eyelashes, it kind of blends in well. And I get the contrast that I'm really looking for in the painting. And I want it to be quite striking. I want people to look at it and think, who is this woman? What's her story? So I'm going through a similar process on the eyebrows. And a little later on, I'll go through the process of how I did her tattoos and jewellery and everything else like that. So you'll notice that I've got the basics of the flesh and body down. And once I've done that, I can go over and add the other details on the top. So things that are crucial with this stage, what I'm looking for is getting a really good, as good base as possible. Then anything on top of that, so like earrings or any of the tattoos, I'm doing that on top of the body, on top of the skin that is already there. Because wanting to paint around all those items, it just does not work at all. It's next to impossible to get a decent skin tone, get the flesh, work out what the bone and muscle structure is under that when you're trying to go around those little items. So that's the way I do it. I work out what the actual figure is doing and then add the details, almost like dressing someone afterwards. The tattoos. This it's not shown here, but I've actually already tried to do the tattoos once, and it wasn't a very successful process at all. So what I did was, I'm sorry, I jumped over a few things. I have probably issues with the camera. So what I did, and like I'm doing with the embroidery on the dress, I add like in everything else, add the base of the arms and neck and everything. And then what I did was I worked out a design and went over that with some thinned down, sort of like burnt umber, some blue, some kind of ultramarine blue, Lots of liquid just to make it very, very thin, and go over, create the tattoo. And then what I did after that, I did a glaze, in essence, a glaze over that. So a glaze over with a kind of a lighter kind of flesh colour, a bit of white colour, and then some darker area just to knock the tattoo back. And it seemed to be fairly successful. And then the final thing, that once I've now done the earrings and this necklace and a few other bits and pieces, I wanted to tackle the hair. And again, working from front to back a lot of these things. So I'm happy with how the actual background is behind her head. And now I'm putting something in the foreground, which is her head and the hair. I don't want to be going back and try and work out what the actual background is once I've done her hair, because it just doesn't work out. In my experience, just does not work out. You can see how things are painted up towards things or around things. And with doing things like hair, even though the background is dry, I could, if I did go horrifically wrong, I could scrape all this off or wipe it all off and do it again. But I don't want to do that. I want to try and get it right the first time. So you've probably seen me looking over to the left. On the left hand side, I've got my computer screen. And on that, I've created a Photoshop mock-up of what I want the scene to look like, or as close-ish as possible. So there's a series of reference photos of, and just reference kind of sketches of what people look like, the figure set up in the right area. But the tattoos, that was probably one of the hardest sections of the whole lot. To find a tattoo that worked well for this scene, but getting that right, getting it so it works well enough to look like it's actually going around the arms and on the neck rather than just being stuck on there, I found quite challenging. But hopefully it's worked out okay in the end. Again, more work on the hair here. And I wanted to get some kind of highlights going on. But again, the highlights I wanted to be kind of this red, some red highlights, and also maybe some blue, and so probably not a natural hair colour, but natural in the respect of it's probably actually quite a common hair colour, or the way that the hair has been dressed, as it were. And the final thing that I did for this piece was when it was dry, I went over, because I want it to be a little bit of rain or a little bit of atmosphere in the painting. So on the final piece, I went over and just added a few raindrops. Again, to try and give it a little bit more depth, rather than being the woman is right at the very forefront, even though she is very much forefront and it's about her. But I wanted to give that kind of depth of, there's a little bit of atmosphere going on, there's a little bit of weather, and then everything that's going on in the background. The background, and all of it, like most artists, we want to try and keep that thing that separates a photograph from a piece of art, in that keeping those brush strokes gives it that little bit of unknown, a little bit of mystery about. It allows the viewer to interpret the brushstrokes how they want. So that's what I wanted to do with the background. So we're getting near to completion now, and I just wanted to quickly block in the background, finish off all that, add a few of the different characters, not too much detail, and there we have it, complete. There it is, the final piece. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, give me a like and a share, that would be great, thank you.